Okay, let's dive right in. We're exploring something, well, maybe a bit unsettling today. Think about that late night phone scrolling, the casual DM flirt, maybe even that intense parasocial crush you have. What if none of that is really about connection? What if it's actually a defense mechanism? A really, really complex one.
It taps right into that pervasive modern feeling, doesn't it? The
Yeah.
background hum of anxiety. We're swimming in what looks like endless intimacy, access to almost anyone, anytime. And yet there's this profound sense of being alone.
Yeah.
And the idea we're exploring is that this isn't some kind of, romance 2.0.
Yeah.
It's more like repression, but in high definition.
Repression in high definition, I like that. It nails it because the symptoms, this virtual intimacy, they're everywhere. Desire just
Yeah.
slides into DMs now. No real effort needed. Commitment, maybe a pinned comment.
Yeah.
And chemistry is just double taps.
And you listening probably know this feeling, right? Feeling somehow closer to a total stranger online, someone you've never even met, than the actual person sitting across from you at dinner. So our mission here really is to dig into the psychological roots of this. What are we actually running from when we reach for this kind of controlled, safe wanting?
Let's start with what you call the ritual of wanting. It's very specific, almost neurotic when you break it down. We scroll, yeah, but often with this, like hidden purpose. You pause on a face, you craft that perfect DM. It has to be flirty enough to get noticed, but crucially vague enough that you can deny anything later.
Mm-hmm. Plausible deniability.
Exactly. Then you hit send, and you wait, and then there's that awful moment. The silence, the non-reply, what you call the symptom of silence.
And that silence, that's where the repression kind of shows itself. Because the core insight here isn't just that you're upset they didn't reply. That's part of it, sure. But the deeper thing is, you're upset because you dared to want something outside your control. Wanting, in the real world, feels dangerous to the unconscious. It really does.
Dangerous because real desire. Well, it demands you show up. It demands vulnerability, presence, facing the messy, unpredictable reality of another actual person. And yeah, the risk of looking like an idiot,
Yeah.
humiliation.
But online,
Yeah.
that risk is managed, contained.
Huh.
It's like a digital bunker. You get to project your fantasy onto this, carefully polished profile. So you end up falling for a persona, not really a person, loving an echo, not a voice.
Okay, ouch.
It's displacement, really. You achieve this illusion of intimacy, but without any real exposure. It's safe, it's sterile, and it's totally controllable, mostly.
I feel slightly called out by that. Hang on. Isn't curating a profile, setting clear expectations online, isn't that just being practical? Are we maybe pathologizing what's basically self-protection? You call dating apps courtship as dodgeball. Is that fair?
Well, if the real goal was genuine self-protection leading to connection, you'd probably set boundaries, sure, but you'd still seek actual connection. What we often see, though, is more like evasion. You curate your photos like it's a museum exhibit. The bio is all about advertising desirability, but without demanding any real emotional heavy lifting. The point isn't really to connect, it's to avoid getting hit, emotionally speaking.
Avoiding getting hit. So, avoiding vulnerability, avoiding feeling, maintaining total control over how you're perceived. It's like we're rehearsing desire, practicing the lines, but never actually stepping onto the stage for the real performance, simulating chemistry without risking the explosion.
And that control, that is the defense mechanism working perfectly. That's its job.
Okay, so if we're constantly dodging real risky wanting, where does all that energy go? That drive, the libido, as Freud would call it. It doesn't just disappear, right?
No, it doesn't vanish. It goes into exile. It gets rerouted. Lunango, in the broader clinical sense, isn't just sex drive. It's the energy for life, for seeking, for connecting. And when we're scared of its messy, real-world implications, that energy gets channeled somewhere else, somewhere safer, sanitized. It's basically sublimation, but gone digital.
We've funneled the raw, chaotic stuff into these neat, acceptable digital boxes, like turning eros into an emoji, a flat symbol.
Precisely. That's a great way to put it. You don't risk rejection with a real kiss. You minimize the risk with a comment or like. You don't have messy arguments, then make up and deepen the connection. You just unfollow or block, or maybe just quietly archive them. The conflict disappears, but so does the chance for real repair and release.
And this isn't just about romance, is it? It bleeds into other areas, like those parasocial relationships we build. Following some business guru or lifestyle coach online and calling it doing the inner work, or, listening to a podcaster every week and their voice starts to feel like actual companionship.
Yeah, what you're describing there is essentially building an architecture of simulated intimacy. You save quotes from strangers and kind of paste them over the lonely bits like wallpaper. You convince yourself you're doing the work. But the energy, the time, the focus, the emotional investment it's going into crafting this perfect personal brand online, which is another form of sublimation, really, replacing deep relational effort with performance.
It feels like the whole digital world is almost purpose-built for this kind of psychic swap. The feed, it's not really a timeline of what's happening, is it? It feels more like a dream journal sometimes, a stage for all our displaced hopes and fears.
And what's really fascinating, psychoanalytically speaking, is the algorithm's role in all this. It's not artificial intelligence in the way we usually think of it. It's maybe better understood as the artificial unconscious. It learns your patterns of repression, your desires, your anxieties, often better than you know them yourself.
Whoa. So the algorithm isn't just guessing what we might like, it's mirroring our own unresolved psychological stuff back at us.
That's the real hook. And the danger. It feeds you content, not necessarily because it's new or helpful, but because it perfectly scratches that same old psychic itch. It lets you replay the same dramas, idealization, disappointment, rejection, longing over and over without ever having to actually break the pattern or resolve the underlying issue. That's the compulsion to repeat, playing out in real time. And we mistake this highly personalized feedback loop for genuine insight.
Which brings us right to the heart of it. We're performing pathology, but we've dressed it up as pragmatism. We use these defense mechanisms so skillfully, we actually convince ourselves we're just being healthy and setting boundaries.
Exactly. And this is where we see something like reaction formation becoming incredibly sophisticated. Reaction formation basically is acting out the exact opposite of what you truly feel or fear. So you might post very publicly, okay, universe, I'm ready for my person, you perform availability. But then behind the scenes, you subtly engineer things so that real, available love can't actually get close.
Ah, okay. So we build these digital moats and then wonder why nobody's swimming across. That explains some of the self-sabotage, maybe. Like ghosting someone who seems genuinely great, or finding fault instantly with anyone who shows real interest.
Precisely. You become brilliantly defensive. But the cost is huge.
Yeah.
The quiet tragedy here is the atrophy, the weakening of our actual capacity for real-world intimacy. We gradually become almost allergic to the messy, uncontrolled elements of genuine connection. Things like ambiguity, comfortable silence, even just sustained eye contact.
It's like we've trained our nervous systems to run on these tiny hits of validation, the likes, the quick DMs like little sugar rushes, but we're starving ourselves of the deep, slow burn nourishment that comes from actual presence with another person. We mistake attention for affection, visibility for validation. We trade presence for pixels.
And this defensive crouch, it warps how we handle conflict too. Aggression doesn't just vanish because we're being positive, it mutates. It often turns into this polite, passive, almost performative avoidance. We don't yell or argue directly, we just unfollow, quietly remove them. We don't hash out the substance of a disagreement, we post some vague quote about protecting our energy.
Right, which is often just emotional evasion dressed up as empowerment, isn't it?
Yeah.
And when you swallow anger like that or avoid necessary conflict, it often turns inwards. It can manifest as anxiety or self-sabotage or just this chronic low-grade dissatisfaction. When we use all that modern jargon, like protecting your peace, sometimes what it really means is isolating your soul from the very friction needed for growth and repair.
We end up building this beautiful gilded cage,
Right.
lined with affirmations and positive vibes. Inside, we're perfectly safe from external threats, sure, but we're also completely alone. Because real desire, real connection, it doesn't really care about your curated personal brand. It interrupts your schedule, makes you say stupid things sometimes, demands you be seen, truly seen, flaws and all, utterly vulnerable. And we seem to have replaced that terrifying, exhilarating risk with controlled exposure. Emotional tourism. You visit intimacy, but you don't live there.
Wow, okay. This has been definitely necessary, even if it's profoundly uncomfortable, to really look at these digital habits through this lens. So if we had to sum it up, what's the final diagnosis for this complex virtual condition?
I think the diagnosis is pretty stark, unfortunately. These virtual relationships, these patterns, they aren't really failures of love. They are, quite tragically, successes of defense. We've become masters of wanting without risking, loving without the chance of real loss, connecting without the terrifying possibility of collision. We've essentially optimized intimacy right out of existence. We've turned love into a kind of content strategy.
And the core problem is that frictionless quality you mentioned. The defense works too well. Desire, love, real intimacy, they're supposed to be messy, interruptive, unpredictable, sometimes terrifyingly, wonderfully alive. And the digital world offers this smooth, seamless, sterile alternative.
And the most dangerous illusions always are the ones that feel like empowerment. They convince you that walls are boundaries, that solitude is strength, that avoiding mess is the same as being healthy. But I think deep down, most of us know the simulation isn't quite enough.
So we'll leave you, the listener, with this provocation to chew on. What happens when the screen finally goes black? When the notifications stop pinging? When nobody is liking or watching or replying? Who are you then in that quiet? And maybe ask yourself, how long can you keep pretending the simulation is sufficient? Before the need for something real, something messy, embodied, maybe even a little dangerous, finally breaks through and demands your attention.